Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Over the course of the past few days, we've gotten some new details on some upcoming fixes and updates for Battlefield 6, and quite a few of these pertain to some of the largest issues in the game. We're talking netcode, we're talking aiming and overall feel there. It seems like in some of these upcoming Battlefield 6 updates, we are going to see some major impacts on gameplay, ideally to help things finally feel completely smooth and streamlined across the board here. So we got quite a few things to break down here today. There will of course be timestamps for all the main topics that we got, but as we go through the various different update details and new fixes that are being looked into, if you guys enjoy the video, you find the information helpful, do me a favor, drop a like. It's always seriously appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, you want to ensure you're always in the know for everything going on in Battlefield, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. I got you covered as always with the latest need to know information. So first up here, Battlefield Bulletin ends up reporting on some new features potentially on their way to Battlefield 6 here in the future, saying as part of the competitive initiative, Battlefield Studios plans to add a spectator mode and custom lobbies to Battlefield 6. They're working with the community to test and iterate on a variety of formats to find what works best for the Battlefield multiplayer competitive experiences. So if you're into that style of Battlefield gameplay, there should be a lot of support coming for this at some point in the near future. Obviously no hard ETA here, but it is something that is actively being worked on at the studios. So overall, pretty good news there. We then get into some more broad issues going on with the game right now, and Florian, or Drunks over on Twitter, one of the game designers on Battlefield, who's very active on social media, which is great to see. There's a certain level of transparency going on at the Battlefield devs that I think is phenomenal. These guys are always going through and responding to tweets and filling us in on what to expect for various different updates. And Enders ends up posting saying this recoil mechanic in Battlefield 6 that messes with your aim needs to go. It doesn't need to be nerfed, it doesn't need to be adjusted, it needs to be deleted. Cloud ended up adding Drunks, or Florian here, as well as David Serland, and Florian responds and says, we're going to get it fixed. It's a pretty complex issue, but we're already cooking some improvements that'll help quite a bit with this issue until it is 100% fixed. And what's being referenced here essentially is an issue where as you are spraying your weapon, as there's recoil going on, it's actually going to cause, in some cases, some acceleration or de-acceleration with your aim. As you're moving left to right, if you are moving right with a recoil pattern, it'll sometimes carry you forward in a way that makes it hard to correct your aim there. On the inverse, if you're moving left and a recoil pattern is going right, it'll actually cause some issues there as well. So there's this weird interaction going on with recoil and weapon behavior there and how you're attempting to aim that basically ends up messing up your aim overall. It's going to make it more difficult to correct and build a level of consistency, because sometimes you got to look left to fight a player, then the next person's up in a right window and you got to look over there, and as you're trying to continuously flick to one player to the next, this recoil mechanic is going to screw you up. So really good that the devs are fully aware of this. They're pretty confident they're going to get this 100% fixed, and they're going to add in multiple steps basically to fix this over time. So really like what I'm hearing out of that. Another person ends up tweeting at Florian and says, since the last update, it feels like hit reg has gone back to how it was, with putting a full clip into others and then just instantly dying there. And to this, Florian responds and says, yes, we are aware. We are actively working on that, as well as anything related to general netcode and desync, dying behind cover, etc. So this is definitely one of the hottest topics going on in Battlefield right now, whether you're talking multiplayer or RedSec. It is an issue that persists across the board, where your time to death just does not match your time to kill. This is something that was an active conversation back during the beta as well, for what it's worth, and the devs were pretty on top of it then, adjusting things and tweaking things here and there. But it does seem like it's something that is consistently reoccurring. Maybe it's good for a couple of days and then something happens and it feels like it's back, and it's just really inconsistent. It feels like you have situations where it feels like you are well around a corner, but somehow an enemy is able to take you out. It seems like the bullets are just curving their way and following you around, right? So this obviously has a huge impact on gameplay. Whether you're great at the game, average at the game, not very good at the game, this is going to diminish your overall experience if you're running into issues with the netcode and with desync here. So again, good news that the devs are going through and actively trying to fully combat this, and it's not something they fix once and it's like, well, hey, we quote unquote fixed it before, right, or something like that. Nice to see that it is continually popping back up on their radar, and they're actively working to stop it from popping back up on their radar there. Hey everyone, 'tis the season, and you already know with the holidays now, there are sales on sales on sales, including the Black Friday G Fuel sale, the buy one get one free Black Friday Cyber Monday event. literally the best time to go through and stock up on your absolute favorite flavors of G Fuel. Maybe check out something new as well. If you want to grab anything for yourself or perhaps get a little bit ahead on some of the holiday shopping you got to do, now is a perfect time to grab something from the G Fuel site. Link will be down in the description below if you're interested. Cloud from earlier also mentions another aiming situation, I guess you could say, because it's not maybe necessarily a bug, but rather some clunkiness. Basically says whenever you turn around, your sprint resets every single time. However, Florian clarifies here and says, what do you mean by reset? It doesn't, it's just the animation since you lose that speed when turning. And in that video, you can kind of see that when the player flicks, their full sprinting animation is not staying up. Their gun's not in that sprinting animation the entire time. And Cloud responds, says, sorry for that. What I was talking about was the animation then. I noticed it wasn't like this at launch and it looked and felt much smoother. And Florian does confirm some of the accelerations in game have changed since launch, so the animations might need a bit of an update. I'll make a note on that. So for those of you experiencing that sort of weird animation hitch where it feels like your sprint is a little bit clunky, is a little bit awkward, that's now also on their radar and actively being worked on and going to be updated here at some point in the future. Keep in mind for what it's worth as we're going through, and if there's responses like I'll make a note for that, or I'll let the team know, things like that are likely just now appearing on their radar, whereas when they're saying, hey, we actively are working on a fix for this, or we've got some fixes planned, that stuff's going to come a lot sooner than the things that are just now popping up on the radar or they're just now making notes of. So just building a general timeline and an expectation there definitely are phrases being used that would indicate when things are going to be coming earlier or potentially later in some cases as well. And then lastly here, another pretty big one when it has to do with aiming. Florian was asked, can you please look into mouse input and polling rate issues on Battlefield 6 for PC? It's been horrible smoothness since launch. And Florian says, we are starting to investigate this issue, just need quite a lot of info on the issue since we haven't seen the issue in-house in many of our test machines with different peripherals. So this is again something that could potentially take a little bit of time to fully go through and fully get updated, considering it's just now starting an investigation as opposed to other aiming updates, like for instance the recoil problem, where they're actually rolling through multiple different rounds of fixes to fully put out and to fully update. Overall though, I'd say good news across the board here. Obviously frustrating that these issues are still persisting in game. Some of them at least have been ongoing for a little while now, but at least the devs are going through and actively saying, hey, yes, we know this is a problem, we're actively working to get this fixed, or in some cases we've got planned fixes, we've got multiple rounds of updates coming to address this. So hopefully over the course of the next few weeks, hopefully not months, just weeks, that'd be the most ideal situation, right? We'd have seeing full-on fixes pushed out for these. We do know that we have the upcoming winter offensive update on December 9th. That'll be like a full-on title update, presumably with some major patch notes and everything going on there. So we could see quite a few things from a priority level fixed there that are, of the utmost, priority. Super important stuff. Ideally though, we also see some things, maybe some random server side updates go live that adjust things in the meantime as well. Of course, if there's any new updates that drop any more communication on when to expect things or what exactly is being looked into, I'll be sure to keep you guys up to date with all of that alongside everything else going on in Battlefield. So feel free to hit that subscribe button to stay in the know. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like on it as well. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.